The NBA says it will not randomly test athletes anymore for cannabis during the 75th season. Has the NBA been around 75 years?
I guess so.
No, it's only been around 74.
So that's next year. More than half of cannabis users are happy to get high with their grandparents. That's kind of interesting. And we have some celebrity news for you once again. Shall I say? No, I'm not going to say who it is, but I'll tell you, their first names are Clint and Justin. First of all, can either of you gentlemen help me out with a gummy recommendation? Now, the kind I use, I don't know if I should mention the name, but they come in little hexagonal shaped gummies. I've
seen those, right.
And they work very well, but they've got a new formula for them somehow, and when I get them, they're always they're not really gummy as much as they are gooey. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're kind of slimy and just like
mine's not like that.
It's like they're sugar syrup seeping out of them or something like that.
Huh.
And I have to now. I like to cut them in half.
Yeah,
but now I have to kind of dip each one in granulated sugar and put it back in the little thing, or else it's just a sticky mess. Yeah,
I was going to say, roll them in sugar.
Mine's not like that. Mine aren't like that. They're more firm.
Really?
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the brand, you know?
Well, they're like that. Sometimes when I make gummies, they come out like that.
They come out a little
but what
wet.
I do, I just lay them out on a rack and let them sit there for a day and they dry out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could do that. But the other thing is rolling them, the sugar serves another purpose because this new formula they've got, it's too sour. I mean, I don't mind sour gummies, but these are like, remember those Sour Patch Kids that, make your face turn inside out? They're really, I mean, this is like eating a grapefruit rind or something. I mean, they're just they're too sour.
Well, they put citric acid into the gummy for two reasons. One, to mask the flavor of the cannabis. Because when it's sour like that, it masks the flavor. And secondly, it's a preservative.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, try a different brand, dude. Try a different brand.
I'll tell you, the difference between a quarter teaspoon and an eighth of a teaspoon can be the difference between pleasantly sour and too sour.
And too sour, yeah. It's just a little over the top.
Just it's a little bit.
I went to the dispensary the other day, and there was a rep there for this company giving information on products, and I just said, "Can I offer you a little input?" And she said, "Sure." And I said, "They're just too sour, man.
Yeah, really,
they're killing me." And she said, "No, good to know. Good to know." She was very nice about it. I don't know that anything's going to happen about it.
What brand was it?
Shall I say it's Verano?
Yeah, Verano's a great brand.
That's a great brand, and I've been using the products for a while, and I love the gummies, but they've changed. They changed their packaging a little bit. And they seem to have changed their formula because it's a more sour gummy and it's a wetter gummy. That's all I can tell you. Wow. So, but I'm open to trying another brand if anybody has a recommendation. But we'll save that for another time.
The Dixie Troches.
Dixie
Elixir.
Right. We're fishing for advertisers here, by the way. I've got an article that touches on a similar subject, and you teased it at the beginning about getting high with the grandparents. What it is the story out of Green Entrepreneur. And the reason I jump into that is because it talks about gummies. What it is a survey they did. And the Americans in Cannabis Consumption Survey had responses of about 1,100 people from across the country, and more than half of them identified as cannabis consumers. It covered everything from getting high at work to looking at, future pain management and all the subjects you would expect. It's a very long survey. But what's interesting is that, to me, one of the takeaways is that more than 50% of the people that responded to this survey who use cannabis prefer edibles over, like gummies, candies, brownies, whatever, over vaping or smoking. More than 50%.
I see that trend. I really have. And I didn't realize it was that much.
I didn't either. And, we've talked about this, over the past three or 4 years we've been doing the show. It didn't used to be that. It used to definitely be smoking was the most popular. Well, it looks like edibles are taking over for a couple of reasons. One, they're more available, I think, right? And there's more variety. But some of the things that came out of this were that people enjoy the gummies, but they don't want them to taste like cannabis.
Right.
They just don't like the taste.
So hence the citric acid, right?
Exactly. It also said that the same amount increased the consumption of edibles during the pandemic. Only about 28% of the surveyed say they use cannabis daily. Those ingesting cannabis wish that the effects kicked in faster and
last as long.
Yeah, and more than 60% prefer edibles that have no taste or don't taste like weed, one or the other. So that makes sense. More than 60% say they use cannabis for relaxation above all, and that makes sense. And they also prefer to buy at a dispensary in lieu of black market. Well, duh. Yeah, of course. Even if it's
I think all things being equal, most people would.
Yeah, absolutely. Other recent surveys have shown that millennials and Gen Xers are the biggest cannabis users right now, with baby boomers right behind them. So baby boomers have a lower percentage than the Gen Xers and millennials, which makes sense. But they're
probably smoking more.
And the survey asked,
they're probably more the smokers
are doing like one or two hits there, and the Gen Xers are smoking.
That's probably
blunts,
more powerful stuff, and the higher.
And they're smoking blunts. They're smoking larger amounts.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the article did have a question in there about smoking with your parents and grandparents. And a large percentage, of course, these are going to be the millennials and Gen Xers, not us, because our parents, for the most part, aren't around anymore, I would say. But they all said, they either do or would, like 80%. So that shows you the stigma starting to disappear. So that's
right, and it shows you people wanting the stigma to disappear. I think, just like you say, for as far as the dispensaries are concerned, people kind of get a kick out of being able to go to the store. And go to the weed store and buy weed, and it's a very cool thing.
I think the number one reason I think all these Gen Xers, will get high with grandpa and grandma is because grandma and grandpa have really good weed.
That's right, in the 60s. Yeah, exactly.
And they always have weed, too. You
and probably have stories about weed that go back to when we were kids, right?
I remember I used to go to movies for a nickel.
Right, yeah.
Bag cost $15.
Woodstock was amazing.
Man, I remember this Black Sabbath concert I went to. I was wasted.
1969. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, speaking of edibles, actually a landmark bill, Ozzie Newsom, Governor Newsom from California signed an emergency bill, really, that now makes it legal to sell smokable hemp, the CBD flower, and also to put hemp in food items, which was illegal.
Right.
And in some states, you can't even sell smokable CBD flowers, so you could have hemp cigarettes, which is kind of...
Doesn't make sense.
I know they did that.
I never understood that.
They did that in North Carolina because the tobacco lobby was so strong.
So what's the difference? I'm sorry, Andrew. What's the difference between just smoking weed and smoking... For those of you who don't know, who smoking smokable hemp
below 1% THC.
So it's not a high getting activity. It's not
a high getting. It's a CBD thing.
Okay.
And CBD has been pretty popular, as we know. I know. I think California last year sold $750 million worth of CBD products.
Wow.
So I think this is a thing that's going to help. Although it's 2 years too late for a lot of farmers.
Right. Yep.
That's because there were probably many tons of hemp that was burned.
I never really understood why
it didn't have anything to do with
why they didn't allow you to smoke hemp. I don't get that. I never understood. Is it just a tobacco lobby?
I believe. Well, that's a big part of it. The other is, the anti-cannabis lobby.
Okay, but
I think it's I would venture to guess, and I don't know either way, but that is probably more the anti-cannabis lobby, because I just don't see. Just because they're both smokable products, I don't see tobacco as in direct competition with hemp.
No, you wouldn't think.
They're two different...
people are going to be using hemp cigarettes to quit smoking.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I've tried.
Well, we
smoking.
can't have that.
Yeah, no, that would not be good.
That would be terrible.
That would be awful. I tried smoking some hemp, and I don't know, just kind of not... I mean, I don't smoke.
Was it not an enjoyable smoking experience for you?
Andrew, what do you think? You tried it.
It doesn't really. It doesn't taste like real weed.
No, it really doesn't. It's kind of grassy.
Although it looks like it and some kind of smells like it. And I've seen some strains that probably, they do, it's kind of, tastes like weed, but
yeah,
some people are mixing the CBD flower and, THC flower.
Yeah, I know a guy that does that, and he likes it.
It gives you a nice mellow buzz.
He's an ex-smoker, and it gives him an opportunity to smoke, and not get too high, I guess. You can smoke a whole cigarette.
A whole joint.
Yeah. And not get wasted because you just put a little teeny bit of weed in there and most of it's hemp. So I've got a news story here out of Ganjapreneur, TG Bramfold, and this is about a recall. And I found it humorous, which is kind of the sick side of me, I guess. It's kind of funny.
Well, you're a sick puppy. Yeah. I mean, we all know.
But we all know Curaleaf, right? I mean, huge company.
Yep.
Yeah. The Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission, the OLCC, last week recalled Cura CS LLC's Select brand of tincture product after the company mixed up its line of THC and CBD products. Oops. So the commissioner issued an initial recall for some of the company's products on September 21st after consumer reports of CBD products getting them high. After our preliminary investigation, we believe this mistake occurred due to unintentional human error, says Curaleaf spokesman. So what happened is people went out and bought bottles of CBD. I can just see these like yoga, soccer moms who take the CBD every morning to get their day going. And she goes in there and does a couple of droppers full. And an hour and a half later, she's like, fuck. Ripped. Right. The September.
I wonder how many people went back and just bought
right. I mean, what a deal, because CBD oil.
They're driving home from soccer and the kid's going, Mommy, why are you laughing so much?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, CBD oil is a lot cheaper than THC oil, right? So it's a deal. It says here, the September 24th recall includes Select Tincture 30 milliliter THC drops, 1,000 milligrams unflavored, which are only available for sale at OLCC licensed retailers.
What about the people that bought the THC?
Yeah, they're pissed.
And all they got was CBD.
Yeah, they're pissed because they got the opposite. Right. That's right.
They paid to get high. They're not getting high.
The OLCC estimates about 630 units were sold, so it's not a ton. In the beginning of June of this year, and about 130 units are still on the shelf, so they're pulling all those off. Individuals who purchased the affected CBD products reported paranoia, mind fog, and feeling extremely high.
Kidding.
They're selling these little, you've bought the tinctures, 1,000 milligrams in a bottle. And some people would take the CBD bottle the same size and do like 5 droppers.
Right.
So you do that with THC tincture,
you're getting really messed up.
You're in for, especially if you're not used to it. So, well, and the other interesting thing here, last year, Cura was hit with a record $110,000 fine for dishonest conduct for falsely claiming that a line of their Select vapes contained 100% cannabis. We covered that story too. That was a year or so, maybe a year and a half ago. So, so they've had some issues, and I think they're a great company. They have a lot of good products. So these things happen, and this was just human error, according to them, and it's probably true. So
and also this was in Oregon.
Yes, this is in Oregon. So if you
so the Oregon curio is a different animal than the Maryland curio.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's the same company, but
I didn't know
they
that.
have to have
same kind. But every state is independent.
It's independent. It has to be, by law,
right.
by federal law.
By law, yeah.
So if you bought some of the Cura CS Select brand CBD tincture, you might be in luck.
And you live in the Pacific Northwest? Yeah. Well, I covered this story for our friends over at Weed Talk News. It's kind of interesting, but only to people who follow the politics of it. There is this federal financial regulator, Rodney Hood. He is a board member and actually a former chairman of the National Credit Union Administration. And he wrote an article in Marijuana Moment, and he's done a couple of speaking engagements in which he is urging the federal government to update the federal banking laws now instead of waiting. And he's talking about the Safe Banking Act, and of course we know that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has basically said that he and Cory Booker of New Jersey and Ron Wyden of Oregon, not only are they not going to introduce any safe banking legislation in the Senate, but they're going to block it in the Senate. They're not going to allow a vote in the Senate or to advance until such time as a comprehensive legalization bill has advanced. And I understand the reasons why, but I also understand. Let's first talk about why Schumer and those and his guys are going to block it. I think it's because they don't want a partial bill that will satisfy the Republicans enough so that they won't be on board with legalization. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't want half a loaf at this point. They want the full legalization,
sense,
and they want the political pressure to build for Republicans to get on board. And frankly, not enough are. And so they're going to block that, and they're going to push his bill, the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. Now, this is very much like the MORE Act, and we've talked about the MORE Act, the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act. That's passed the House once, and it has passed a key committee in the House again. So it's going through the House again. And it's very much the CAOA that's going through the Senate is very much like the MORE Act in that it would deschedule cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act. It would expunge prior convictions. Mm-hmm. It would allow for resentencing of those who are now serving time on cannabis convictions. But unlike the MORE Act, the new one in the Senate does not really address the racial disparities that a lot of, especially the Democrats in the House and in the Senate, want. It doesn't, and it doesn't also have any provisions for reinvesting in those communities that have been hardest hit, as they say, by the war on drugs. So the CAOA, as it's going through now, doesn't address those things. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. They just decided not to put it in there. I guess Schumer would be able to answer that. But this guy Hood is saying, first of all, many people would be surprised to find out that credit unions and other financial services providers are able to, that you can legally do business with the cannabis industry from the federal perspective, as long as you comply with all the RICO and anti-money laundering laws and do your due diligence and other basic requirements. But the problem is that the banks and credit unions don't want to do business under those terms because the guidelines are so vague and out of date. And it, like we've said, it really amounts to resulting in a cash-only industry. And that's just, it's not safe. It's not good for business. And
as I understand it, the banks aren't really afraid of the regulations. They're afraid of the regulators because they don't know what one of these, banking officials is going to come in and do.
Well, and
that's
Faye
right.
brought
that's
up
exactly right.
Last time Faye was on, she brought up a point that I didn't realize. She said most legal states have one or two banks. Typically, they're smaller local banks that will do business with cannabis companies. As I understand it, the issue is more these national banks, the big ones, the city banks and Chevy Chase banks and those.
And small, really small banks can't take the risk.
And some national credit unions like Navy Federal Credit Union and stuff like that.
Right.
Now, I don't know if Navy Federal is going to get into it, but there are larger credit unions that would do it that they don't want to get into it either.
Right.
So this regulator Rodney Hood contends that passing some form of federal legalization, whether it's the MORE Act or the Senate bill, that's a foregone conclusion. It's not a matter of if, but when. It's going to happen. In the meantime, taking action to clarify these antiquated rules, because it's just like you said, or I don't know which of you said it, but they just don't know what the regulators are going to do, right. And the reason they don't know what the regulators are going to do is because the guidance isn't clear. It's out of date. so if you could clarify that, it would go a long way to easing the stigma and the uncertainty. A lot of the banks just, they're old school. They don't want to do it because of the stigma attached. Sure. And it's just, it's harder to make money on a cash-only industry.
That's for sure.
And that's really the main driving. If there's no money in it, banks aren't going to jump on it.
Well, this industry is going to just, once they pass legislation like the MORE Act or whatever, and once the IRS allows their deductions and so forth, like every other freaking business. Look how well they're doing now. Essentially, they're doing pretty well. Pretty well. Imagine how well these companies, and that's why the stocks are going pretty nuts on the good companies, the strong companies, because they know this is going to happen.
It's going to happen, and it's going to be large.
And when it happens, all of a sudden, these companies that are reasonably profitable are going to be incredibly profitable.
Hugely profitable. Right. And you mentioned, the tax deductions. That's one of the things that Rodney Hood brought up is the rule 280E.
Right.
Which it doesn't allow you to,
claim deduct
for basic business. I mean, you conduct the cost of goods, but you can't deduct operational costs,
equipment,
and
labor. There's all kinds of things
you can't write.
You can't write off a loss.
Right.
So if you have $3 million in sales and you still didn't make any money, you're still going to have to pay a tax on $3 million in sales,
which is
even
bullshit.
Though you lost money, which every other business doesn't have to do.
It doesn't have to do. And, any other business can write a check to meet payroll or write a check to pay the government, pay taxes. You can't even write a check to pay your taxes.
You have to hire a security team to take a wheelbarrow full of cash down.
Yeah, and talk about putting a target on your back.
Yeah,
that's
it's
not safe.
Dangerous, absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. I think I know what's going to happen, and that is that Schumer and Booker and Wyden are going to dig in their heels and say, sorry, we're going to do it this way, and no other way. So.
Well, we'll see.
Banking reform is going to have to wait.
Yeah. So it turns out the NBA is not going to be randomly testing for marijuana on in the next season.
All right.
So this is the first time a professional league is saying not shelving the whole marijuana thing. Not at all.
That's great. That's good.
That is groundbreaking news.
I also have another little story about Paul McCartney, Sir Paul. Apparently, Sir Paul has a farm, and on the farm, he's growing hemp.
E-I-E-I-O.
All the local, teenagers were going onto his farm and stealing all of his hemp plant.
Well, they think
because they thought they were THC. They thought it was real weed.
Right.
So it's now Sir Paul is hiding his hemp crop from the local kids.
Why is he growing hemp?
From the poachers.
Just for fun, I guess.
Because he can. Because he can.
Sure, why not?
Because he's Sir Paul.
Good for him, man.
When you're order of the British Empire, you can do that sort of thing.
I suppose so, or anything you want with his money. Well, I've got a couple of celebrity stories. As long as you threw one out there, you opened the gates. So here you go. I know.
Well,
I know how much you guys love.
He's opened the door.
I know how much you guys love my celebrity stories. You got especially Phil. He's got the big what who gives a fuck attitude when it comes to some of these celebrities. But this one,
very interesting.
The first one is Clint Eastwood. Now you might remember that I did a story. Oh man, last year on Clint Eastwood with the lawsuit he had against this company. Well, he won the lawsuit. Actor Clint Eastwood, and I'm reading from Ganjapreneur, and this is T.G. Branfald again. Actor Clint Eastwood won about $6.1 million in a lawsuit against a Lithuanian company that used Eastwood's image and likeness to promote its CBD products without permission. Now, you might think, oh, come on, Clint, what do you care? Listen to what they did.
Oh, $6 million is a little bit of money.
That's a lot of cash.
I mean, really, but of all images, he doesn't really portray.
No, but listen to what they did. Actor Clint Eastwood and Garapata, which is the company that owns the rights to his likeness, on Friday won about $6.1 million in a lawsuit. The lawsuit was just one of 20 that were filed last year by the actor. The companies had used Eastwood's likeness, false quotes, and manipulated meta tags to make it appear as if the actor had endorsed the products. So what these folks did, this company, is
that's balls.
They essentially created an ad and perhaps a little video that showed Clint Eastwood on the Today Show. And then they superimposed that he was talking on the Today Show about how wonderful this product, this CBD product was that this company in Lithuania sells. So it wasn't like they just said, oh, Clint likes CBD. No, they went so far as to falsify this. It says the company made up an article that included an interview with Eastwood with an outlet meant to resemble the Today Show, which included a photo of Eastwood from an actual appearance on the morning show, along with links to purchase the CBD product. The firm failed to respond to the summons last March, leading to the $6 million judgment. So they never even showed up, plus $100,000 for attorney's fees. So way to go there, Clint.
Yeah,
feeling lucky.
You know, and from now on, there's got to be other companies trying to do that. You just got to ask yourself.
Yeah, right.
Do you feel lucky?
Punk.
Well, do you, punk?
Well, do you, punk? I got one more celebrity story, and this is, if I'm not mistaken, this might be one of Phil's favorite musicians. I'm not sure.
Who would that be?
Justin Bieber.
I'm sorry, you threw me when you said musician.
Let's not be mean to Justin. You're going to piss off every 12-year-old girl that's listening to us.
I've been pissing off 12-year-old girls since I was a 12-year-old boy.
The Canadian singer, that's Justin Bieber, is breaking into the cannabis space. Wow. How original. Who'd have thunk it?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, to go with his fragrance and his clothing line, I'm sure.
Tennis shoes, who knows?
And hair care products.
He's teaming up with a company to peddle pre-roll joints that he's calling, quote, Peaches, unquote, which apparently is a song he has out. Something called Peaches.
It's called the joints of Peaches?
How nice for him.
Oh, let's go smoke a peach.
The Los Angeles-based recreational pot company Palm Premium announced its partnership with Bieber on Monday on Instagram, calling the product a limited edition line that will be available in California, Nevada, Massachusetts, and Florida. Palm specializes in pre-roll joints, according to the website, which advertises 7 joint packs for $32, available at dozens of stores across. Now, talking about California and Nevada, talk about marketing to kids. Seriously,
yeah.
Right? I was going to say, I thought his fan base were all teenage girls.
Would think.
Well, I think his fan base was teenage girls, but they've grown up and they're not teenagers anymore.
That's true. Because he's been around a while.
He's been around for 10, 12 years or more, and he's got a following that includes more than that age group, and probably not as much in that age group anymore. And I just want to say, I don't mean to rag on Justin. I'm sure
I'm teasing.
He does a great job with what he does. I mean, he's a probably a fun and talented guy, and I just it's just fun to rag on pop stars. We're teasing
because we're jealous. He gets all the women, and he's young and
entirely jealous.
We're old and ugly, and we don't get any women.
And I will, his first hit song was one more hit song than I will ever have. So
give him that.
So kudos to you, Justin, and I'm glad you're getting into the weed business.
Welcome aboard, brother.
I don't mean to be mean.
Hey, send us some samples, man. We'll push it because we have this huge audience. At least
that's right.
25 or 30 people will know about your product. So.
Well, Justin, if you liked the show today, and by the way, the rest of you, if you liked it too, hop on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating if you get a mind to do so. Tell a friend about it. Tell Brittany and all the other pop stars.
People.
I have no. Well, I guess Ariana Grande is probably not old enough to smoke weed, but maybe she is. I don't know. But tell your friends and get on board. We have a lot of fun here, and maybe they'd like it. So and get in touch with us, right, Jay?
Yeah, send us an email at podcast@VoteProPot.com. Call our message line at 240-257-2441. Andrew.
We talk a lot about the cannabis industry and the legislation on our podcast, but we can't talk about everything that's going on. So we do a lot of sharing of information on our social network platforms.
Aye, that we do.
So we really want to encourage you to come and comment on our social network platforms. So just go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn and do a search for Vote Pro Pot.